Welcome to Our Soul Whisper with Kathy Belmont and co-host Dr. Pat, a sacred space for self-discovery, healing, and transformation. At the heart of Our Soul Whisper is the sacred truth. When we pause and listen inward, the soul always speaks. This show offers a safe, empowering space where those whispers are heard, honored, and lovingly guided into full expression. Each episode invites you to be curious about yourself and the reality you're in, while gently reminding you that you are exactly where you need to be. Let today's message settle in your heart. Maybe even journal about it. And if something resonates, peace, clarity, or insight, pass it along to someone whose soul might be calling for the same. Keep listening inward. Your soul knows the way. Our Soul Whisper starts now. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Pat. I get to take this beautiful ride of life with the most incredible Kathy Belmont. Today, this is an episode that is part 2 of a very, very important, I'm going to call it a journey rather than an episode. It's finding your true north, standing behind what you know. Today, in part 2, we're going to take a look at what does that mean? How do we explore what comes after the realization, that aha moment, that thing, we call it a light bulb. Who knows what you're going to call it, but you know what I mean. So once you recognize that something in your life no longer fits, and I'm not talking about those jeans that you tried to get on the other day, although those could be it too. How do you trust what you discovered? Kathy, what a great topic. Now, for people, I mean, I just went through the jeans thing, but in my case, they were too big. But I want to ask you, because we've heard the term True North, there's been so much said about it, but from where you sit and what you're going to explore with us today, give us what your experience, what True North means to you.
The North, what comes to me, for me, it's my truth and my center. So at the end of the day, when I'm, doing whatever I'm doing and I kind of come home and settle into myself, what's true for me? And when I find that center, and that's what guides me, and that's what we're going to talk about today, as far as taking those aligned actions to where, okay, you know where you are in this moment and what's that next step that's going to get you there. So I actually designed this 90-day program. It's called the Defining Move. And for me, it's a process that I go through and have gone through. And it's a very simple process in a sense that it just gets down to it. And I'm kind of that type of person, just what's the truth. So last time we talked about what misalignment feels like, what alignment can feel like, what that does feel like, and also those obstacles in the way. And so today we're going to look at kind of the second part. Okay, now we've identified it. Now it's getting honest about it. So that's the first part, which I call the clearing. Get honest about what we're looking at. And so I found this great quote by Carl Jung, and he says, your vision will become clear only when you can look into it with your own heart. Yeah. And who looks outside dreams, and who looks inside awakens. And so this first step, it's about just getting clear, getting honest. It's about, okay, when I'm with this person, I get this pit in my stomach. Okay, well, what's there? Well, there's something that needs to be said, and I'm avoiding it like the plague. That's the block. And what's blocking you from having that conversation? Well, I don't know that they're going to take it well. Or it could go to some core root that I think is part of all of us as humans, is we're going to be abandoned, or we don't think that we're worthy to have our voice there. So it's really getting honest about what you're looking at. And, a lot of times we can justify it. We can justify it away with saying, well, it's not that bad, or, whew, I got away from that one. But life has a way of reminding us and bringing it back to us. And so it's really about getting clear and really reflecting on your life. Where are you staying with something that doesn't feel true anymore, where where it's safe. It's you know what to expect, right? Or what story or fear are you telling yourself to justify to stay where you are? And so I think they're very important questions. And once you know what you're working with, then you can say, okay, let's move forward. And I know in my life, when I can get really just deep and say, yeah, this is it. And I can feel it. I can feel that plunk when I get to the truth and I say, okay, I need to admit it. This is what's there. And now I know what to work with.
Mm.
But the more I keep myself unclear, I find it very difficult to move forward and to take that next step because I'm not taking a line step with really what's my true north, really what's true for me in that moment. I may be making a decision coming from something a little skewed or not quite the truth, which is okay. It just may take us a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I have to say, this is so important. It goes beyond even our personal hesitation because, both you and I have corporate experience. And I will tell you, some of the worst things I've ever seen happen, especially in AT&T and the Bell Labs and Bell system, is when a manager was so afraid to give feedback to her boss, his boss, their boss, it cost, an operating system to be delivered late. And, when
mhm,
we debriefed
mhm,
them, Linda and I debriefed them, what was underneath it was I didn't want to tell blah, 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 because it would have cost Joe his job. I,
mm,
I mean, think about
mhm,
it. There, you make up these consequences
mhm.
as if you do trade-offs. And when we do that within our own lives and we trade things off with our own lives, that is not a pathway to freedom, is it?
It's not. And, I know it can sound like an easy thing to just get honest about it. And, there's ways of going about it. In the corporate environment, it can be a very different environment, you know, talking with coworkers or maybe researching what's the best way to approach this situation. Finding a mediator, middle ground person that can give you that feedback. So there are ways, and that's a step. What's your intention there? I want to get clear about, I need to pass along this message, this information. I just don't quite know how to do it.
Hmm.
And, I think that awareness in itself is huge. And I think that's something that we bypass as well. We could go along, just doing what we do and wonder why things aren't changing. But when we have that awareness, we have a choice. Take that second to say, okay, I don't know what to do here. Let me find a way to figure it out. But you're coming from a different place. You're making a different decision. And that's how our life changes. We think it's this big, sometimes magical spectacle, which sometimes I like to go into, but it's really what different decision am I going to make
Hmm.
today, this moment where I didn't do that before?
Yeah.
And so
How do we stop wavering? How do we stop going? How do we stop? What's the expression? On the fence. Have you heard that?
most
On the
definitely. Yeah.
fence? Okay.
Yeah.
But how is it that we learn to stand behind our truth? What is it you've learned in that?
Well, first I've learned to expect that once I've made that decision, I've made that awareness. My experience has been fears will automatically come up. That stuff that wants to be resolved, to be seen, it's an opportunity, it's information. We can call it information, a gift. I like to see it as information. Okay, this is coming up to be seen. And so it's really allowing in the second part of standing behind your truth is not allowing that fear to lead you, not allowing it to take over. And so Nelson Mandela had a great quote. He said, "Courage isn't the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." And so it's really saying, okay, this stuff is coming up, yet I know this is my truth right now. And, we can get away from it. I found myself getting away from it and kind of being in that on the fence. But when I get back to it, I say, I still want to go forward with this. And it comes to a part where we decide it's costing us more not to do that. And so, we have these messages, what if I fail? And one of the next thoughts could be, well, what if I succeed? Or I don't know how exactly this is going to work out, but I know something needs to change. That becomes more of the stronger anchor. And that's what helps us stay grounded and not to waver so much.
Yeah.
That self-trust is, what do I already know? We can get feedback from other people, but not rely on it and take that over what our own truth is. And it's that emotional steadiness of maybe one moment we're saying, okay, I'm in this, I'm doing it. And then the next moment, no, I don't think it's the right time. So again, it's becoming aware of that and just going back to your clarity and saying, what is it that I really want to do here? And what's that next step for you? Maybe it's, well, I'm going to write down that I'm grateful for the fact that I'm even aware of this. I keep going back to that because I think of times in my life where I just was not aware. And I'm so grateful because I have a choice now. We
Yeah.
all have choice. And it can make such a difference. It's not about perfection because we're already perfect and we're
Yeah.
already worthy beings just because of we exist. And so it's really a matter of looking at what's in front of us and what we can do in that moment that can be empowering, that can give us that courage to stand in what we know. It's those small steps. We don't have to eat the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
Sometimes leftovers are great. So,
Especially enchiladas.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and actually we can use that as a great metaphor because it gives us time to let things simmer, all those tastes to come together and figure out, okay, yeah, if, just giving myself a few moments. So,
This is so important. I want to ask you, I know we're walking people through this, and, this is all a level of understanding. I was unaware about 5 very important business decisions I made last year. I didn't understand the impact. Today, I became aware and I had to make very difficult calls about them. And yet I was just so grateful that I got the awareness. And let's talk about this because if my emotions, let's talk about that emotional part. If my emotions would have gotten hold of me, or I don't even know, you know what I mean? I don't do well in those emotional moments. I have to bring my back to center, and each of us have tools. Can you talk about that aspect of emotional steadiness? Because that's so important, especially when you weren't aware, now you're aware.
yeah, and it's just that awareness of, like you said, those emotions can overtake, and do I want to make a decision in that moment? And a lot of it comes from, the integrative work. That's something else that I do. It's what parts of us that come up when we have to have that conversation or that awareness of, oh my gosh, I've been acting out of this place and oops, or that fear that comes up or whatever. And it's really acknowledging it and giving that a voice. But it's having those tools that I know we've talked about in the past of
Yeah.
what can bring us out of it. Is it a saying that you have? Is it taking those few moments? Maybe if it's appropriate to, leave the room or leave the situation for a little bit and to give yourself time to get back to that center, whatever those tools are for you. Call someone in that moment. Say, I'm having a moment right now. Help me bring down because I need to make a decision or I need to, so it's taking that time for yourself to bring yourself back, and you can start getting in touch with the feeling when those emotions are high, and then you can say, oh, okay, I'm starting to feel it settle down a bit. And that's getting in tune with who you are, and it's getting you back to your center, to your true north, to where you can say, okay, now I'm at my center again. Let's do this.
Yeah. And the next part really is now what? Because
Mhm.
what are we trying to do here? we're trying to live an amazing life, right? I don't think people wake up every day and say, okay, oh, I can't wait to wake up and have my world be in chaos. No, I think we have inside of us this longing for peace and joy
Mhm.
and to have them create the life we want. And part of this one is what you do in coaching. And you just said you had a program to help people, right? Because
Mhm.
helping is getting through what you just said, but then it's taking that next step.
It is. It is. And again, if this information that we're talking about with anyone resonates, this is kind of the structure of the program. And of course, life coaching is, first and foremost, I go where the client goes. This is a structure, and this is kind of just a little bit of a focus. So just keeping that in mind. You brought it up beautifully, Dr. Pat, of, we don't wake up and want chaos in our lives. And that's a step we can take, you know, before we get out of bed or first thing in the morning. How do you want your day to look? What intention do you want to set for your day? I want to be peaceful today. I want to make a difference however I can today. Or maybe you're just not feeling it and you just say, I just want to, get up and be grateful for one thing today. So it's setting that intention which sets the day. Going back to everything's energy. We're putting it out there. What is it that you want to put out? And so it's in this step, which is creating a life that feels like you, it's taking that action. And we're taking action along the other two steps, that clearing and standing behind your decision or your truth. It's all coming from a different perspective. Now you've got the clarity, you've got that steadiness when you're not so much on the fence. Now you're saying, okay, how do I want to show up? Maybe in the work you do, you say, I feel like I've just been playing really small. I want to play bigger. I have things I want to say. And so you take that step. What does that mean for you? Maybe it's raising your hand for the first time and saying, I really want to say this. Or um, taking advantage of an opportunity to maybe lead the meeting, but taking those steps towards that, having that conversation that is in the way of a friendship or any relationship, family relationship, that is there and it's easy to bypass, but it's having that conversation. And it's getting in touch with those parts of us that come up and that are afraid. And again, those are signs, it's information. And so alignment, it's really just that relationship that we build with ourselves. It's those aligned steps. And so it's really just, and it's embracing where you are in that moment. Give yourself some compassion and gratitude. Maybe that fear will take you a week or so to kind of move through and come to terms with. Well, that's what it takes. But wouldn't it be wonderful if you're able to look back on your life and say, whew, that used to scare me and now it doesn't anymore. What a
Well,
great feeling. And to be able to
it's
look back at that.
awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, that is the most, look, people that know me and people on air know this is my 36-year of recovery. And I will tell you something. When you say yes and you walk into a 12-step program, you do not know that you are going to have to do exactly what you just described, including go back to people that you harmed and make amends. And I think anybody that can do that has created a gateway. They have passed a milestone in life because I'm not somebody that raised their hand. I'm not that person. I mean, I may look like that now, but part of this, if we could just talk for a minute, making aligned choices consistently. I would love for you to talk more about that because if I make an aligned choice once, that isn't going to do it. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Can you
Yeah.
talk more about the importance of consistency? I have not been able to do it without my coaching team. I just have not. My sponsor.
Hmm.
Let's talk about that because you're
Yeah.
offering to help people, Kathy. Do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And that's what we do in coaching. And, just to give you a little taste, in keeping in with those aligned steps, you have this discovery session. What are your values? What's important to you? And from that, in the sessions that we have together, I will ask every time, okay, what's what's one aligned step you can take this week? What steps do you want to take after what you shared that's so important to you? And there's an outcome for every session. What is it that you want to get out of our time today? What is it that you want to look at today? And then we set it up to where I support you in doing that. And then what are those actions that come to you? It may be, you know, I haven't been expressing gratitude enough. I want to do that. Or, you know, I want to have that conversation, or, you know, this, I love the work that I do, but the environment just isn't really supportive. I just don't feel acknowledged. You know, so it's making those changes, and it's saying, okay, well, what can you do today? Well, I'm going to make a phone call. Someone gave me a reference, or I want to have this conversation. It's whatever will get you closer to where you want to go. And it's having the intention, you know,
Mhm.
what, and getting yourself to that centered place. You
Yeah.
know, okay, I'm a little bit scared right now. Before I make that phone call, before I send that email, I want to get into an empowered place. You know, put on your favorite shoes, put on those favorite jeans that fit. You know, whatever makes you smile and feel
Hmm.
like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And so, and that's part of the coaching, is really getting to what's important to you here. You know, what are your values? Well, integrity is really important to me. Honesty is really important to me. I want people to tell me like it is, or whatever that is for you. Boundaries are important to me. Being in a safe environment, whatever that is, you identify, and that's what we work towards.
Hmm.
And that's the difference that we can make in each other's lives. You know, I'm a teacher as well as a student, and I learn just as much from the clients that I work with. I had a session just yesterday, and I didn't realize how much I needed that. And that's the kind of impact that we can make.
Yeah.
So,
You know, it's interesting we're talking about this because, you know, my friends, and you know that you've met the hosts, the other hosts on the network, and a
mhm,
couple of them, Lorelei and a couple of others, are master astrology people. And Lorelei said to me a bunch of weeks, I don't know, maybe last year, la 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 la, Dr. Pat, blah blah blah. But wait for June, because that's when things are going to change for you internally. Something I didn't pay any attention to it. And I had to reflect today. I woke up this week with a new sense of awareness and clarity. Now, I don't know how much it's related to astrology or the 6-month journey I had to get here, but everything shifted. Things
mhm,
have shifted completely. And I don't want to convince people that because my moon is in the sign of Saturn, what I want to say is maybe for some of you that means something, but it's taken me 6 months to really absorb the energy of now. And
mhm,
you all teach me. I mean, just this show today gave me that new awareness that I woke up today and I'm getting a stronger glimpse of my true north now. So
mm,
as we talk about this, you have learned, you know, for you to step forward and get your credentials and become a coach and a spiritual coach and create programs and do this show, you had to go through all the steps you just talked about.
most definitely. And and you know, I think that's what I not I think I know. That's what I really I want to get my message here is that my journey is your journey too. And it can look very differently. We live in different places. We've got different costumes on. But at the end of the day, you know, we feel a lot of the same stuff. And I've always been a teacher, and I've always been a helper. I like to change that word to support and guide and partner with. But I've always had that urge to really make a difference. And if it's something that I can share, or something can just kind of awaken or say, oh my gosh, yeah, I feel that too. I know the teachers in my life have been so important. And
Yeah.
I just, it's my way of really and expressing my truth and seeing who that resonates. So, you know, as we close the episode, I just want to invite everybody to really think about what's that next aligned step for you. You know, have that conversation you've been putting off. What's that little decision that you want to make? And I'd really love to hear what you have to say. Send me an email, oursoulwhisper@gmail.com. And if you want additional support, I've got a free meditation and a reflection guide there at oursoulwhisper.com. Something to just really get you in touch with, you know, allowing you to contemplate what your next defining move is and to be grateful for the awarenesses and all that it took for you to get to this point.
Yeah. And, for people that are like you and like me that knew we couldn't do this alone, I mean, it took me a while to figure that out, but we knew we couldn't do it alone. Now there is someone that they can go to. They can work with you on just exactly what we've talked about in part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
Because really, our North Star is our birthright, isn't it, Kathy?
You know what it is. It is. And, we go to, I want to just repeat that we're worthy because we exist. And this is all a beautiful journey and experience. And really just take it as information in your heart and say, where do I want to go with this? And when we can take the judgment and kind of the harshness out of it and just say, all right, let's play with this a little bit. Let's get curious. So if you're curious, just contact me, oursoulwhisper.com. I would love to have just a conversation with you to see if what's true for you and where you want to go. And I'll be your partner right along the way.
I love that you do that. And I want to say to people, it is a conversation with somebody that honors who you are, exactly where you are. So many people, Kathy, wait. They wait till maybe if I just did this before I call Kathy or before I call Pat. They wait. Please, this is your life. If there's something inside of you that is calling you to learn how to transform, to learn how to not just find your true north, but be it, Kathy has made this super easy. Kathy, thank you so much for today.
Oh, thank you. I love this conversation, Dr. Pat. Thanks so much. And thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, we'll see you all next time. Thank you for listening to Our Soul Whisper with Kathy and Dr. Pat. Tune in every first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific on transformationtalkradio.com and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Take a moment now to breathe in and reflect on today's message. If it brought you peace, clarity, or insight, let it settle in your heart and maybe even journal about it. Remember to like and share this episode with someone who's ready to listen within. May our soulful echoes ripple outward, awakening awareness and deep remembrance. If this show touched something within you, share it. Let's create a world where most of us pause, listen inward, and allow our light to shine. Visit oursoulwhisper.com for more.